Hey everyone, this video will cover just briefly what I'm looking at in the market, what I'm working on in terms of like my watch list and how I put that together, and also a performance tab that I added straight to TradingView. So every Monday, I do a market review with my community where stocks that they're looking at and also things that I'm looking at. We go through the charts, we talk about the market and the environment we're in, go through the charts and look at potential trade setups for the week. And I, so earlier this week and in my newsletter, I was talking about the Dow being in this rotational range. So it's range bound right now, rotating from one side to the other. And now what we want to see is how the Dow handles this area here. Could we see resistance and it rolls back over? Or are we going to push through? This is just really, we're just looking at overall what's the higher probabilities. If we look at the Nasdaq was in a downtrend, and after it broke all of its moving averages, then here, the bottom of the range, today I would ask, was yesterday just a retest to the bottom of the range and we're going to continue rolling over? Or was it just an outlier? Sometimes we get an undercut of a level, but it doesn't mean that we're going to continue down, right? So that's what we're looking for today. And then for the S&P, we stayed in this tighter range, and this index covers a lot of different sectors, and so we've had this tighter range, but putting in some lower highs. So now we want to see if we're going to continue down towards at least this 7336 now that we're under moving averages. What I think is interesting on the S&P is so far this area under the moving averages, we have not been able to break above, but we're also holding here. So I'm curious to see how we continue today. In general, there's a lot of downside pressure, and you can see that amongst different names. So when we have been rotating, and same with we were range bound. This one was a pretty big swing, and then once we got to this here, we started to sell. So there's a bit of a shift in character, right? So from range bound to potentially starting to sell. And a lot of the tech names, so let me go over to my watch list. This list is my review list, and pretty much what I do here is, because I'm asked a lot how I choose my names. The thing is, I keep a very long list here of things that I traded, names that I've benched, but the reason I keep this long list because I like to go back through it to see if there's something of interest, right? And I typically do a new review list I want to say quarter, but it's more so timed with if we have a shift in sectors and a shift in the market. So then the past 2 months, I had about 10 names total that I was trading, and they were all, Dell, UNH, Apple, Google, Coin, AMD. Those were, so just so you have an idea of like what was on my list. Intel. So what I typically do, AMD I had benched because it was not only, so there are names that are range bound that are totally tradable. This one, the quality of movement was really poor, so I benched this one. But now I have it back on, interested here on the downside. If this But let me tell you, sometimes these stocks can be really relentless in selling more, and what they'll do is pop back up and continue to do the sideways before they spill over. If they do, there are times where this sideways is enough digestion and then we're starting a new uptrend. But typically, when we have an area that is difficult to break above, we'll see a flushing out through some selling before we base to go back up. So back to the names and everything. So I go through my op list and I start to add things here that I may have not traded in a while. And then I start to sort them by, if I have something that's a wide spread, I may not trade an option on it. And if I have, so I would be interested in upside if it presents itself through a stock trade. Then there are things that I've benched, like HIMS. HIMS, I did a few trades on it when it had these parabolic moves in 2025. And then I didn't look at it again. Kind of wish I did for this downside. I mean, this was pretty smooth. But I also noticed that it's the characteristic of its movement, the quality of movement, it's pretty smooth. So I, even here, 4 straight days of rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, even here, 4. It's just smooth, right? So it's back on my radar, as well as Shopify is a little bit choppy, but I'm watching that. So again, on my review list, does not mean, so I do a review list. So for my big list, also on my big list, also here on my review list, I do get some names from just simple screeners that show me like the top in each sector. And, but I'm not big on screeners. I have not figured out how to use them well for finding things that may be up and coming, right? And I'm sure even AI can help me program that. I've just kind of just haven't done that yet. So where are we at? So I've got names that I'm interested in, upside or downside, and other things like, anything gaming and casinos. I really love the way this space is looking. Again, we talk about quality of movement. This is not erratic. It's pretty, we see the moving averages converging. So we'll see what it does on earnings next week. Then I've got, let's see, so SoFi, let's see something else. Riot has been a little wild, and, for the type of trading I do, these are the moves that really can make you quite a bit, but you have to know when to get in and quickly come out of them. But I like its movement here. So, but yeah, these are Dollar General I had for a while, just kind of scoping it out. Not very smooth, but I'd been thinking about, what is here in terms of upside, maybe a longer position. And, Google is, Google here at the 200 SMA. So if we start rotating up, this actually would be something that I would be thinking about trading. Maybe today's Wednesday. Maybe I get an entry sometime this week. What we see here is this first. So we see this gap down that can be a final flush. Then we see a reversal. So for me, the way I trade, I have this concept of like breaks, buyers, and then a retest. So here we have potentially the breaks, we see the buyers, and then I'm looking for a retest around this area. Could this little wick have been a retest? Maybe, but we'll see. So then, okay, and now I'm going on forever. Let me show you one last thing. So in performance, there is a performance. tab indicator on TradingView. And I actually went ahead because one thing that I'm working on to get better, definitely screeners and definitely uh, trying to catch rotation, sector rotation a little bit faster, maybe, researching a bit more. And, maybe, I have, if you have a set of stocks to trade and you can make, upwards of 100+% on your trades and minimize your downside, how much more do you want to fold in, right? Because I'm not, I don't necessarily look for, I haven't looked for the up and coming. Usually the internet is buzzing about something and then I'll look for it. So, but, I talk about becoming a 7-figure trader. So this quarter, I've been exploring things not just in my process, but also in the names that I choose and what will get me to those goals. So far, it's just about position size. I've got an expansion playbook, and that's what I'm working on right now. But back to performance. Here are the inputs that I've done. So these are your ETFs. So this was the one way that I figured I could keep up with what's performing this week, this month, 3 months, and 6 months. I don't need beyond that because of the time frames that I trade. I just adjusted these colors so I could see them, and then I made my time frames here. So kind of neat. I've been enjoying just like looking at this. So this one changes the most, obviously, and it refreshes with the new data that comes in each day. So this is under, you can just search performance, and it's a technical indicator that you can program. All right, y'all. So that's pretty much my update. If you want to join me live on Mondays, join my community, and we meet at 9 a.m., go through what the market is doing and what names will potentially set up that week or the next for trades. And then, of course, in the community, you're welcome to engage, ask questions, and I am definitely here to help. Would love to see you. Okay, bye, y'all.